Welcome everyone to the first open work event. I think you all know me, but I'm Pedro Guerrero, the CEO of Guerrero Media, and the head coach to pretty much all of you except I think one guy. Welcome. At Guerrero Media, we have the unique privilege of talking to hundreds of executives per month, thousands of executives per year. So the goal of open work is to provide the executives we work with an opportunity for them to share their insights with a live audience. Guerrero Media's purpose is to recognize, promote, and develop great executives. And in my experience, speaking with a live audience is both terrifying and illuminating. When done well, when the executive is open, willing to be vulnerable, the authentic self can shine. And the experience itself can be an incredible opportunity for development, both for the executive and for the audience. So open work is a new way to bring Guerrero Media's mission to life with live talks, open leaders, providing powerful insights. So before I introduce today's speaker, I want to thank a bunch of you that helped make today happen. I obviously want to thank Mary, Vianney, and Jacqueline on helping us execute this event. I want to thank Sean Connor on helping us name this event series. I want to thank Caleb, Juliet, and Greer for helping us with this incredible branding. I also want to thank Franny, Leanne, Cass, Jillian, Megan, and Jordan, and Taylor. You guys all did incredible work here, so thank you for your hard work and collaboration on helping us make today possible. So, you didn't come to hear me speak, you came to hear from Xavi Cortadellas. Xavi is the global head of innovation and design at Gatorade. He's been featured twice in Hispanic Executive Magazine and joins us today from Miami. He's going to be sharing his innovation insights and what leadership means to him, and after his talk, we'll open it up for questions from all of you. At Gatorade, Cortadellas leads his team in the creation of Gatorade Gx, a sports-fueled customization platform that helps athletes and executives better understand how they hydrate and replenish themselves. Gatorade Gx will be available not only to professional athletes, but to everyday guys, schmoes like me and all of us. Well, you're not schmoes, but all of us here. Originally from Barcelona, where Cortadellas studied architecture. His career took off at Nike, first at Nike Iberico in Barcelona, and then to the Nike retail team in Mexico and Brazil. It was when looking for an opportunity at the corporate headquarters in Oregon where that perfect opportunity from Gatorade came along. Cortadellas had the chance to redefine the future of Gatorade and expand his global footprint, and he took it. So it's been an honor for us to share your story in the pages of Hispanic Executive, and it's an even bigger honor to have you join us today. So please welcome Xavi Cortadellas.
Okay, I'm a walker. Well, thanks for hosting me. Thanks for the nice introduction. I will do my best today to share a little bit about leadership and what we do in Gatorade. So we could move to the next slide. Let's see if this works. Perfect. So I will talk a little bit about how kind of a few leadership lessons on creating, transforming a business. And I think that the best way to talk about the GX platform is to think about the platform and what's the platform business. So if you think with the merging right now of kind of new economy, old economy, CPG companies, the big digital giants, etc., this idea to integrate traditional products, traditional businesses with new digital capabilities, this is what basically a platform business is. So quick example, let's click one. Yep, perfect. So we start with the core business, right? So what's your core product? What do you do? And then you revisit that. We click one more. Perfect. And then we think about new services, how you could enhance this product, maybe kind of go to the agencies, start thinking about new things, how you could extend your brand proposition. And then if we click next, we come up with what we call integrated products and services, and kind of elevating your brand, your business, and moving to the next level. Next slide, please. So a good example of that is Nike Plus. Probably many of you are using or have used in the past Nike Plus. You think how Nike Plus started, you had a shoe, you had a chip that you inserted on the shoe, and then all of a sudden you were tracking your running. But that then evolved to then you could track your run, you could get some advice from coach, you could start sharing your run with your colleagues, and that was the genesis of a big platform that still Nike is leveraging today, but others came up after, and that's Strava today, right? So you do your workout, and then you share that with your friends, and share that on social platforms, etc. Nike was the genesis of that. They transformed an initial business, kind of their shoes, in a service platform. An example of that, what we have done in Gatorade. Click next, please. The GX case. So where we will start? One more slide. So think about Gatorade and how Gatorade was created. 50 years ago, University of Florida, a group of football players that were struggling with kind of the hot and humid weather from Florida, and they were not able to finish the games. They were drinking tons of water. That was not enough. So a group of scientists led by Dr. Kate, they decided to create a sports drink. Just mixing water, salt, sugar, add some lemon juice, suggestion from Dr. Kate's wife, and they create kind of a new thing, a sports drink, and they create kind of a giant Gatorade. If you think that's a true athlete insight, an athlete problem, and then based on science, you come up with a solution. Click one more slide. So we ask ourselves, okay, we need to reinvent Gatorade. Where we should go? It's kind of what's our hypothesis, where we should start. So click one more. And we start, that's one of the cool animations that you will not see. We start with this idea that every athlete is unique. And think about that. Today in the world of sports, everyone is leveraging personalization. You have personalized cleats, you have personalized training programs, you have even personalized equipment. It's just that on a sports drinks, on a sports hydration, and sports nutrition even, personalization was not part of the game. Click one more. So we come up with this hypothesis that said, okay, the next version of Gatorade should be a personalized Gatorade based on 3 key pillars, that we will do our innovation based on athlete insights. That should be something that works for the athletes, based on science, same that Dr. Kate back in the day is kind of solve a problem with a scientific approach, and leveraging technology. What in the past was not possible, that was to do personalization at a scale, now thanks to new technologies, we maybe could unlock that. So with these 3 principles, we approach the project. Click next slide, please. And then, similar than Dr. Kate, we had a vision. We have kind of, okay, it's about the sports field personalization, but instead of doing that kind of on a theoretical model, in the lab, etc., we decided to start with a real world. And we had a unique opportunity that was our relation with the Brazil national team. So Gatorade was a sponsor of CBF. And then we approached them and said, hey, we are doing something cool. We have an idea about, personalized drinks, etc. Are you interested in that? They said yes, but with one condition. We want to be the only team in World Cup able to use this technology. Okay, well, we had another team that was the US national team. We talked with them. The US national team, they were not interested. We said, okay, we will do it with Brazil. And we didn't have the platform ready. We didn't have the components ready. We had kind of a few pieces here and there. And we put the team together and started working on that. I remember that, talking with my team, I said that, one thing I know for sure, they will not delay the beginning of the World Cup because of us. So we had, we have one objective, that is to have this thing ready when the Brazil team starts training. They need to have all the components of the platform ready because, we are important, but, World Cup, they will not wait. So I think we have a video that shows...
Working with the world's best teams, combining science and technology, changing the game. Gatorade, the global leader in sports drinks, is providing athletes with a new performance advantage: sports fuel personalization. The project began 3 years ago. Gatorade and GSSI partnered with CBF, testing players before, during, and after practice. This testing confirmed that every player has unique needs. Gatorade scientists then developed custom fueling solutions specific for each player and each occasion. The end result, CBF and Gatorade proved that the system worked. Since that initial success, Gatorade has expanded the system, working with the best teams in the world to evolve and refine the platform. Now the system has new components, new technology, and a new name. Gatorade Gx, the real-time hydration platform, is providing instant feedback on hydration, fluid intake, and fluid balance. Athletes, trainers, and dietitians on some of the world's top teams are already using GX to unlock unique sports fuel strategies for every athlete. GX continues to evolve as the professional teams use different elements of the system to meet their specific needs. In the meantime, selected components of the GX platform will soon be available to consumers through Gatorade.com. Every program, every technology, every breakthrough will be anchored on what we do best, fueling athletic performance. We are Gatorade, the global leader in sports fuel, moving the game forward.
Can we click next slide? Perfect. 5 principles, 5 lessons that maybe you guys could take on your day-to-day that we use on the development of the platform that could be relevant for our daily jobs. Click next. So the first one is the vision and the roadmap. It's super important to know what you are trying to achieve. And I can't tell you how many projects I see in Gatorade that the vision is not clear. It's kind of, if you know what you are doing, it sounds very obvious, but you need to know what you are doing, and you need to be sure about that. Do a lot of this and articulate this vision. So create kind of the right pages, the right articulation, the right user maps that said this is our goal. And then whenever you are in your journey, then if you struggle, go back to the vision and said, okay, what was the original problem? What we are trying to solve? That's kind of your North Star. Then next, once you have the vision, you also will, as an example, it will help to identify where the real unlocks are. In our case, for instance, in the story of the GX platform, we wanted to leverage technology, but technology for the sake of technology is not useful. Sometimes old school pen and paper works very well, and especially with professional teams, the level of the disruption that you could introduce is very minimal, so you need to be very strategic of where you need technology and where technology adds value. And when the current process based on pen and paper works well, don't touch it. So that's part of this articulation of the vision, that if you map the whole thing and you create kind of these user experience maps, etc., that allows you to say, okay, here, these are the 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 unlocks that we need to focus on, the rest, leave it as it is. Next slide. The second one is build a kick-ass cross-functional team and convert them on evangelists of your vision. So if your team understands what you are trying to achieve, then you have a winning team. And I can tell you, 4 years working on these platforms, that my team, internal team, agency team, R&D team, etc., everyone touching this platform, they believe in it. And if you have this group of believers, then you could achieve great things. One of my colleagues on the design team in New York said, you don't have a team, you have a tribe. And that's a little bit the spirit. It's kind of, you want people to believe on what they are building and then spend a lot of time together. Some of the videos here that do not work is kind of, for us, and kind of all of us being on sports, we have been sweating together, doing sweat tests on ourselves, spending time on the field, celebrating victories, celebrating fails, and kind of, literally sweating every detail of the project. Remember, one of the first things that we decided to do after the pilot with the Brazil team we said, okay, let's figure out this sweat testing process, how we do it today and all the stuff. And then our team of scientists said, okay, we could do that, but we have some limitation to work with kids because we cannot release this data, etc. That policy has changed. I said, okay, if we cannot work with kids, we'll do it ourselves. So we apply the sweat patches on ourselves, and we were interviewing each other, but some of us, we were running on the field, said, okay, let's play a soccer game, 90 minutes there, and we'll figure out how this whole thing works, and we will be the users. That doesn't matter. And still today, my team is doing most of the sweat testing that we do in the lab, etc. We start kind of applying all the new technologies, all the new ideas on ourselves and see how it works. That's kind of sweating the details, literally. That's the way to go. Okay, and then the third lesson is what we call piloting. Many CPG companies, they like to do tests. The problem with tests is that you pass the test or you don't pass the test. It's success or it's failure. If instead of testing, you use piloting, you approach it in a different way. On a pilot, you basically build experiments and you try to learn from experiments. So sometimes the pilot goes very bad and kind of all your initial hypotheses do not work, but you take a lot of lessons from that, go back to the drawing board and reiterate. So this, and again, in a CPG company, that's not very common practice. We do a lot of testing, do pilots. And doing pilots and being on the field and kind of validating in a smaller scale what you try to build, that's the way to keep perfecting your initial vision and the user maps that you have developed up front. Click one more. Okay, this one without the animation is hard, but one example of piloting is what we call the happy accidents. On this video that you will not see, you will need a little bit of imagination here, is it shows kind of the value of lessons that you could learn from the field. So this picture shows for the Brazil team, we basically had these bottles with the smart caps on it that basically track at real time how much the players were drinking. And each one of the bottle had kind of a LED system on top that basically to see if the bottle was working properly, you need to activate through a tablet. But we figured out by accident that just putting the bottles in a cooler and kicking the cooler with the sensor of the bottles, all the bottles will light up, and the one that was not lighting up was the bottle that we had a problem. You could never figure out that kind of when you design this, but kind of once it's there, kind of by accident, someone hit the cooler and said, oh, wait a minute, kind of, yeah, some bottles work, some bottles do not work, so it's the kick the cooler trick. You need to be on the field, and you need to be there with the team to say, oh, that's really cool, let's implement that. So sometimes it's kind of, you could do a lot of hypotheses, etc., but then the happy accidents, if you are in the field, is when you really solve the real problem. Click one more. And then the value of piloting is also to figure out is kind of what's the real value proposition for the consumer. So in this case, talking about sports fuel personalization, we learned that when you talk with a high school kid, sports fuel personalization, what the kids wanted, they said, hey, what I want is my bottle, design the bottle, put the name on it and all the stuff. Don't complicate my life with multiple formulas, etc. That's not for me. That's for another guy. Fine, kind of we will figure out something around that. So, and then when you talk with a professional team, they said, okay, forget all the jazz. What I want is kind of my formula and kind of a specific recommendations, etc. So the insight is the same, but the outcome could be different. So that's also the value of piloting. One more. So lesson number 4 is celebrate the wins. And that's also, sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive. In a long innovation process, many people ask me, said, but how you convince the company to invest on something that, it takes 4 years to go to market? I said, well, along the journey, you could have wins and you could celebrate these wins. On the image of the left, you will see, it's a little bit hard here, but that's the Brazil team. Here you have the Powerade coolers, who was the official provider of drinks during World Cup. The orange coolers are the Gatorade coolers. So when the Brazil team was training, FIFA forced us to have both coolers. You see where the players are. These are the type of wins that you want, right? And if you are able to share the story, and the team said, hey, we have just done one experiment, this is just one team, 25 players, but see what happens. And then people said, oh, if that works for a professional soccer team, let's try them with different sports. So you could start iterating from that and kind of celebrate these wins. It's kind of that experiment work, let's celebrate, let's have fun together. I even, for the Brazil project, we invite some of our colleagues from the R&D team, kind of people that basically does product development, etc., said, hey, come to Brazil, see some of these trainings, see these pro players using your product. Kind of for the guy who spent all his life in the lab developing formulas, etc., to see Neymar and all his colleagues using a product that he has designed and see that firsthand, kind of this guy is really proud, and then he will go back to the lab and he will work really hard to move to the next level. So to celebrate these wins, super important. Click one more. As part of these celebrate wins, a platform that was originally designed for one team for World Cup 2014, 2 years later we had kind of around 20, 30 teams, this is updated 2017, but basically we were able to roll out the platform to multiple teams across multiple sports. This is still not commercial, but we had kind of a platform that professional teams were willing to use, and we were able to explain this story. So again, kind of a step into the journey that builds success. And then lesson number 5, and probably the most important one, is be relentless. Is on any innovation project, the obstacles are huge. And the only way is that, you divide your big assignment in smaller problems and solve one problem at a time. Sometimes it's that kind of, you see this kind of mountain and it's impossible to climb. Okay, go one step at a time, one problem at a time. And then when the next problem comes, okay, I've solved all the other ones, so okay, bring it on, we'll solve it. There is always a solution, there is always a turnaround. The thing is, and again, go back to the vision, said, okay, we want to deliver the sports field personalization, we will deliver that. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, etc., but that's the way to operate. Click one more. So another example, that's hard, but without seeing that, of relentless, right? So one of the insights that we discovered talking about personalization, talking with one of the kids, I said, okay, if you want to do personalization, why you don't design a unique bottle for me? So in the case of Brazil, you put the name of the athlete on the bottle. Okay, I want to do that. It's kind of, I'm personalizing my Nike cleats. I want to personalize my Gatorade bottle. We said, well, that's impossible. We don't do that. Okay, we talked with the company who manufactures our bottles. I said, okay, we want to personalize bottles. I said, no, you cannot do that. I said, okay, let's talk more. So we developed basically a program that the bottles that we have traditionally manufactured in China bring this production in the US. The ID rings, or kind of the caps of the bottles, do kind of laser printing on these caps with new printing machines. And even we bring these printing machines in events like Super Bowl and NBA All-Stars, etc., to do printing on site, that then in 15 minutes you could have your bottle personalized. So it's just an example. That's something that seemed completely impossible, completely out of scope. If you ask the right questions and you push the right buttons, it's possible to do it. And kind of you could go really beyond your core capabilities. It's kind of Gatorade, we produce things at a scale. We don't do bottles one by one, but because that was important for our consumer, we achieved that. So GX is a platform business, and really quick to wrap it up. Click one more. So, this is like, that's impossible. The core business, so basically we revisit kind of, instead of a traditional Gatorade bottle, we decompose this Gatorade bottle in 3 elements, kind of the vessel and kind of this personalized vessel, water that is available, and then the pods, that is this concentrate Gatorade, that is basically what you could personalize. So the core components of our product, we revisit that and come up with a better system. Click one more. Then we add the services, and then, okay, we said, now that we have these pods, we have a new capability that we could sell these pods via e-commerce. Traditionally, Gatorade is not a very friendly product to sell via e-commerce, But if you have Gatorade in a concentrate form, all of a sudden I said, oh, this thing, you could ship it via Amazon, etc. That's the stuff that we are launching in 2 weeks. Back in the original vision, that was not the intent. We said, okay, we'll do personalization, but we were not looking to do personalization specifically designed for e-commerce. Once we come up with a product that was small enough, I said, hey, this is a good idea for e-commerce. So again, kind of a new feature that you create based on the outcome of the platform. So the services aggregate to the core business. And then one more, that's also difficult to explain without the animation, but talking about new services, we talk about personalization. The way we have been doing personalization so far is that basically we send our scientists on the field, they test the athletes, they collect these sweat samples, we analyze these sweat samples, and based on that, we recommend product. So we said, okay, if we want to do that at a scale, instead of a scientist, we need kind of this scientist in a pocket. What we carry on the pockets all the time, an iPhone or a kind of a smartphone, then we are working, and this is still work in progress, but basically with a patch that captures at real time how much do you sweat and what type of sweat you have. You capture with your iPhone, you do kind of take a picture of this sweat patch, and then you have on your app your personalized recommendation on what product you need to drink and what formula is best for you. So an example, again, how to leverage technology to unlock something that is big. So all of a sudden, something that was specifically designed for a pro team, 25 players from the Brazil national team, now this could be available to the masses thanks to technology. So that's kind of the platform business coming to life. And obviously, if you have these athletes, you are capturing their information, how much they sweat, what type of products they need, etc., you could also start a different type of conversation with these consumers. So just to wrap up, I think in the case of Gatorade, a brand with all this history, think about kind of what we have been doing with playing with technology, playing with sweat patches, playing with e-commerce, all the opportunities that we had ahead of us. It's kind of, it could be from different models of digital engagement. It could be to provide service to athletes. It could be to help them to get better at their fueling needs, sports nutrition recommendations. So we believe that as a brand, with all the legacy that we have and leverage new technology, we have proved ourselves that we could do much more than a sports drink. So I will say that this is just the beginning. And internally, when we talk about that, it's not just what GX could bring in terms of business, it's also what it means in terms of transforming the business. And again, it's one of these small victories. If you prove that you could change the current model and do something completely different that starts kind of evolving from product to services, who knows, maybe 10 years from now, Gatorade will not be selling products, and what we will be selling will be services. It's just helping people to do better their sport. So I think that there are multiple implications on that. But again, it's kind of you need to prove it. And I think one more. That's it. So just wanted to open for questions. And yeah, that's all what I need to share today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh. So before we open it up to all of you, we want to ask you, let me get over here for the camera op. We want to ask you a series of fun, rapid-fire questions.
Okay. I'm ready.
Your job is to answer them in one sentence or less. Are you ready?
Okay. Well, being from Barcelona, short answers is not our thing, but okay, I will do my best.
Okay. So who's going to win the World Cup?
Brazil. I'm not Brazilian, but, Brazil will win.
You played football, that's soccer, people, when you were young, and you skied. So would you rather win the World Cup or an Olympic gold in skiing?
World Cup.
What's your favorite Gatorade flavor?
Lemon lime.
These are easy. These are the easy ones. Who is your favorite architect?
Architect, probably Mies van der Rohe. Yeah, kind of a lot of Chicago buildings. Yeah.
Your favorite travel destination?
My favorite what?
Travel destination.
Barcelona.
Best movie ever?
Oh, shit. I think I will pass on this one. It's hard, yeah. I'll pass.
You can come back to that.
Yeah.
Spanish director, maybe?
Yeah.
What's been the most impactful book you've ever read?
Impactful book. Yeah, I think some of these history books, I remember one about, I was super young, but maybe kind of I was 12 years young and was reading a book about the independence of India. And that's from Dominique Lapierre and Larry Collins. And it's one of these books, again, that's not a short answer, but it shows that when you want to achieve something, that's possible. So the whole independence of India and Gandhi kind of trying to win independence, but without kind of having a war and all the stuff. That was shocking. So yeah, that's a good book, and I like to go back to this book from time to time. Yeah.
And you were 11 when you read that?
Huh?
You were 11 when you read that?
I don't know, maybe not 11, but yeah, 12 or 13. Yeah, I remember, going to the library, school library, and it was kind of a thick book, and kind of asking, said, can I keep it for one more week, please? I said, well, are you sure you want to read this book? I said, yeah, I like it, yeah.
How has your background in architecture helped you?
Not short answer, but I think architects are good on kind of taking multiple inputs and generating a meaningful output. And I think that when you approach innovation, that's the core capability that you need. I'm not an expert on anything that you have seen on these slides. I don't know how to design product. I'm not good at technology. Even kind of interpreting what the athlete needs, all the stuff. There's people that does this better than me. But I think that what I'm good is taking multiple inputs, process that, and then generate the output. And I think architects, generally speaking, have this capability to say, okay, you need to design a hospital. Say, okay, fine. You need to talk with multiple people, understand what's the program, what's the needs, etc., and then you come up with a layout and with a building later on. Innovation is the same process, and I always said that in my professional career, I have never front kind of a challenge that has been more complicated than some of the exercises that I was doing in college, studying with to be an architect. So probably that helped me, yeah.
Good answer. That was like 10 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. If you could summarize the one trait that you need to have to be successful, what would it be?
Vision. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now I think if we'll open it up for questions. Seems kind of loud, this microphone. Anybody have questions here? We have Mary coming by with a microphone. We have one over here.
Thank you for your insightful lecture, and I sure learned a lot from it. And I also think innovation is very important to companies' growth, and because if a company only focuses on operational efficiency, such as to lower the cost, just optimize the product, but their core product without innovation or strategy, I think all the companies will look more and more identical because they all follow the same best practice. So the innovation will be the real differentiator for this company. That's why I really liked what you give us the example of, either like Nike or this GX product, or even the integrated service. I think my question would be, I have two questions. The first question, sorry, it's a lot, I know. The first question will be, because we already know we want to do this innovation, but how can we balance, how much resources we want to put into this new pilot project or testing versus we also want to keep the current profit, right? Because sometimes the pilot tests, they're not always successful. We have to take into consideration the failure, but how do you balance that? So that's the first question. Do you want to answer it now, or okay?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, and I've asked this question to myself many times. It's kind of what's the right balance, right? There are companies that said, listen, to create an innovation department, it's not a good idea. What you need to achieve, or what you need to try, is that everyone does a little bit of innovation. And some said, okay, let's allow everyone in your organization that then, 10% of their time, one morning a week, they could do something else beyond their core job. And that's maybe the way to allocate some resources to innovation. Maybe that's not the only model. Maybe the model could be that said, okay, let's create this separate team that does innovation, that kind of thinks beyond the core, etc., and that, while the rest of the team is doing their core business. So I don't know what's the right model, what's the right percentage. I think it depends a lot on the type of business that you are, etc. But I think it's important to find this balance, that while you have a team or some resources or even some of a big percentage of your time focusing on your core business, your core day-to-day, then allocate some resources to think kind of beyond that, what's next. Something I didn't explain is when we created the long-term innovation team for Gatorade, that team didn't exist. And I remember one day I sit down with the president of Gatorade. I said, I want to lead this team, and we will bring design and innovation together. We will create a fantastic team, and we will drive that. And I kind of present a whole proposal to him, etc. And I put some numbers here. We will drive growth of the company, blah blah. I said, I love everything except for one thing. Forget about the growth. There is another team thinking about the growth and thinking about next year. You guys should go beyond that and forget about next year growth. That's the only way that you guys will kind of think outside of the box. Mm-hmm. Again, maybe it's not the whole team, but I think at the end, you need to kind of take some resources out of the day-to-day and put it aside. How big? It depends a lot on the company. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I have another question. I just wonder if you can elaborate a little bit more on the benefit of having this cross-functional team.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I'm a huge fan of what we call open innovation, right? That it means some stuff you know how to do it, you have the right expertise in-house, etc. Some stuff you have no idea. Then bring the best talent from outside. It could be a startup, it could be a technology platform, it could be a design agency. In our case, we work with cross-functional teams that we had kind of people from the sports marketing team, people from the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, people that are product developers, technologists, the external design agency that bring a lot of the thinking and all the stuff. You need to mix all these ingredients, but with one very important consideration. At the end, they need to work as a team. If there are a lot of barriers between them because they belong to different departments, etc., that doesn't work as a team anymore. So I said, you create the vision, you create the team. This is like the NBA, right? It's kind of, they grab the best players from different colleges and then they play together. But they are not thinking about the college they are coming from. They play for the Celtics or they play for the Warriors. It's kind of, they need to play as a team. But you need to grab the best talent from outside and be very honest with yourself. I said, this stuff, I know how to do it. These other stuff, no idea. Okay, let's look for the right talent.
Yeah, I think that's great. So it's like you have this vision and you know what needs to be done, and then you go out and find each team member who has the strength that's what you need for a certain role, and then you bring them all together and collaborate.
Yes,
Okay.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We have another question over here.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm referencing your architecture background. What was the best building you've ever seen or been in, and why?
Well, I don't know if the best building, but kind of one of these buildings that has an emotional impact on you. I remember on one, I think was my first trip to Italy, and going to Florence and visiting the cathedral and seeing the Duomo. And yeah, there was something magic on that, see, this type of a building and think, when it was built, with what type of technology was available at that time. And I think it's kind of, even today on the Duomo, on the Florence Cathedral, even today using computer models, they don't know exactly how they build it. So I found that fascinating. So that there was something magic on that visit, yeah.
I think we have time for two more.
Hi, Xavi. Thank you for coming out. A great presentation. I wanted to ask, how important is it to be very specific about the vision, or how specific do you get? Because obviously, before you go into this endeavor, you have to have some level of, you're going to learn as you go. So how much do you know at the beginning, and how did you create that? What was the beginning of the vision of Gatorade RX, and how did it change, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. On the vision, I always said something I didn't include in the presentation, but to me, one key thing of your vision, if you are not able to explain what you are trying to do in 1 minute, you are in trouble. So it's the typical elevator pitch, right? It's kind of, you need to summarize and say, what's the objective in a very simple way, just for people to understand what you're talking about. And then you could elaborate as much as you want. So in our case, I said, what's the goal? Sports field personalization. Every athlete sweats differently, therefore they need a different sports drink. We'll create these sports drinks for them. Period. It's kind of, okay, got it, that's it. After that, you could start elaborating as much as you want. And in our case, to create these consumer journeys or user journeys, it's kind of from A to Z, what will happen, the sweat testing and the personalization and the bottle, and then do these maps for a professional team to a high school team, an individual runner, etc., and see what will happen. That's a way to kind of start developing this vision, always with the user kind of as a first person, and start mapping based on that, where are the needs, where are the problem solves, where are the business opportunities, etc. I think it's a step 2. It's not what you will explain on the elevator. And then when you need to go back to that, you could go back to these user maps, or you could go back to the elevator pitch. And you should do both. The user maps, it's fascinating to me that we create some of these user maps just after World Cup 2014. So that's 4 years from now. And I see these user maps that we created 4 years ago, and what we are building is exactly what's in the user map. I say, holy shit, it's kind of that. But that means it's a little bit that you are visionary enough to write these things, and or that the roadmaps are so good that then basically you are pursuing exactly what you put in paper. So I always, I like to refer to the vision, because especially when you have all these little roadblocks across the way, it's super easy to deviate from the original path. So even the vision is something that you need to keep kind of, I don't know, in your desk, or kind of have a few slides or a few visuals that said, this is it, this is the elevator pitch, and go back to that as often as you need. And when you are bringing, especially with cross-functional teams, etc., that you're bringing new people over and over, you sit down with them and say, oh yeah, I have heard about this platform. What's exactly this about? I said, okay, let's do the elevator pitch one more time. So you need to be relentless also, having the patience and the time to bring others along. And you always need to start with the assumption that the others will not believe in you. So that's also very important. So assume that the others will not buy your vision. And then if they buy it, great. If not, keep hitting it, and sooner or later they will come.
Great. One more.
Hi. I think that your 5 steps for innovation are fantastic. And my question is, how do you, when you have things that are not big projects that you know you're going to have this big innovation for, but more everyday processes, like for us, we have our sales process, we're making our magazines, and the day-to-day work, how do you inject that spirit of innovation into things that you just have to keep doing all the time?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of our president says that all the time. He says, if you guys do kick-ass work and you show kind of on a project like this what it could be achieved, you will inspire others to revisit also their day-to-day process or things that maybe are not as exciting. But probably you could apply the principles at a smaller scale on everything that you need, that you do. If you have a vision, you map kind of all the steps in the process, you try to find efficiencies, you try to find good opportunities, kind of new opportunities there. What are the problems to solve, the cross-functional team, all these you could apply to, every day you do in life. And, not being obsessed that everything needs to be reinvented. Many of the things that we do on a daily basis, they work very well. That's kind of the pen and paper example. But other things can be improved. And then, take a hard look at things and say, okay, let's revisit that. Kind of, let's put some post-its on, on the wall, like kind of a step 1, a step 2, a step 3. Is this the right way to do it? Maybe you could remove a step 2. What will happen? So I think that start questioning yourself on everything that you do. That's probably the way to go. For me, I like to observe things and observe people, etc. One fascinating thing, for instance, for me is kind of traveling and, grab a train, go to the airport, etc. And just figure out kind of the little things that are not well designed. I said, wow, if I was kind of responsible of this airport, I would change this, and that. But it's not, don't be obsessed with that, but it's a little bit of kind of a mental process that you could develop all the time. Obviously, I'm not planning to redesign O'Hare Airport, but maybe I see some opportunities there that will spark something, and that will generate some new ideas. I had a good tip on that I heard from one guy at a conference. Like he's a guy who basically published kind of an insights publication, kind of big trends, big things, etc. And he says that he has a golden rule that I don't do it, but I encourage you to try it. I said every time I travel, I go to the kind of the magazine stand at the airport, and I buy a magazine of a topic that I have no interest at all. I don't like fishing, I buy a fishing magazine. I don't like hunting, I buy a hunting magazine. And just go through the magazine just to see new things, new ideas, maybe some it's there that then, boom, I could apply on my day-to-day on what I'm doing. That requires a lot of courage, but it's a little bit of this, curiosity that could help you to, improve things that you do on your job or even with your family or your personal time.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Xavi. Let's give him a round of applause.